The best tip for Star Wars Outlaws is to pet every creature and start your own little creature army as you walk around the planets, but don't forget Nix, he gets jealous. Okay, here are some essential upgrades and hidden items you have to get first in Outlaws. Let's go! Let me know any tips and tricks and cool things you've come across in the comments down below. We'll start with what to do first. Now, the game opens up pretty early on Tashara, allowing you to explore and wander around, and I definitely recommend to follow the main story through most of that Tashara section, as there's a lot of critical tools and upgrades that only unlock for you during that main story component. And if you're exploring too early, you'll come across things like locked doors and wind tunnels or rocks that you can explode later on, but there are these Metroidvania, I guess you could say, like elements that you'll unlock these tools throughout these early parts of the main story that will allow you to open these things. So you don't want to be exploring too early and you come across these puzzles that you can't actually interact with. The early one that you'll get is like the Ion Blaster, which will allow you to not only shock droids in combat, but unlock doors that have an electrical component that you'll have to interact with. Some of these doors will actually have multiple of these that you'll actually need to trigger. This will also unlock the first two of the ability NPC intels that will actually lead you to get those ability NPCs like unlocked, so you can unlock their like skills essentially. These first two are the speeder mechanic as well as the slicer. Now the speeder NPC will give you the first ability to boost on your speeder, which is hugely important for speeder races, and then eventually you can get the jump as well, which will allow you to jump over obstacles and stuff, which is fantastic on planets like Tatooine that have a lot of rocks that can get in your way. And the slicer will give you some hacks and like other upgrades for your slicing, as well as some other miscellaneous upgrades. Now these specifically unlock from Dunker when she goes to Jaunter's Hope. You'll need to chat to her there and you'll get those first two intel chains. Now essentially how these work is that once you get those intel chains, you'll need to follow them and sort of sleuth out where that NPC is located, and then once you've found them, they'll give you a quest that you'll need to then go and complete, which is actually some of the best content in the game. I really enjoyed those NPC quests. They're all quite unique and there's some fun things that do happen within them. And speaking of those intel chains, there are multiple types of intel in the game, from your basic intel to your expert intel, key parts intel, and others as well. And firstly, I'd definitely suggest to focus on those expert intels when you get them. We just talked about why they're important as well, right? But these not only lead you to those unique side quests, but they unlock the various ability trees. Now, when you complete these quests, you only get that first skill unlocked, and the rest of them you'll need to actually complete over time. Now, you only gain progress towards these if they require you to do certain actions when you have actually unlocked that NPC vendor. An example of this being, right, like say if you need to headshot 15 enemies, I'll only get progression towards that once I've actually unlocked that NPC ability line and like done their quest, even though I might have headshotted 100 people before then, right? Now, some of these will also require unique key parts. Now, you can see which one of these upgrades are when you do look at the ability. It'll say if there's like a unique key part that you do need, and it'll give you some intel around the rough sort of area or place that you can actually find that. This is relevant to some other things as well that we'll talk about later in the video, but when you do see these, it is worthwhile to go and get those key parts, especially early in the game. One of the absolute essential ones you have to get, especially early, is once you have unlocked the mechanic for the speeder upgrades, is in that line there is the Scoundrel's Pouch, which will increase the amount of Bacta vials and grenades that you can carry by 1, and then there is the second upgrade of that for the Outlaw's Pouch. Because initially you can only carry a couple of Bacta vials, which is like your healing item, you will definitely notice this upgrade very quickly. There are other ways you can increase your health as well by certain abilities, which you should totally be doing as well, but getting these increases to the amount of Bacta files you can carry was a massive upgrade that I felt that I definitely needed to make sure I grabbed very early on, so I wanted to point that out for you guys. I am also working on a video around where all of these ability NPCs are located and how you can actually find them, as they're not all that easy, so I will have that video out coming for you soon. I'll link it here once it is out. Now, obviously you can upgrade Kay and Nix with various gear as well, but a couple of things that you may forget is that the speeder and the ship also need upgrades. Now, initially with that speeder NPC, where you'll find her, you can return to her if you need to upgrade your like speeder later on, which I totally would recommend doing, not only for the races that you can find on various planets, but also just to help with your movement around the open world, because the faster your speeder is, the faster you can get from point A to point B. And then there are also some tricky areas where you actually need the boost and the jump in order to access, like say, making a certain jump to reach like a higher area, or, areas that you need the boost in order to access as well, from like wind tunnels, because you can boost through wind tunnels. You can't actually get through them any other way. The ship upgrade upgrades can be done at any spaceport via any person you see there, but the actual NPC in order to unlock the laser turret, which is that extra weapon, is actually found on Tatooine after you've completed the recruitment mission on Tatooine, and D5 will give you the intel chain to find the Jawas. This quest is like a ton of fun. I won't spoil like any of it. I really enjoyed this quest, but once you have unlocked the turret, your ship will then have an extra attack that you can perform, and this one doesn't actually require you to aim. Once you do trigger the laser turret, it'll actually like heat seek and like shoot at targets, which is quite nice. But these are really important, and the ship upgrades in general for a lot of the contract missions and things that happen in space. Something that I noticed very early on is that I died very quickly trying to fight things in space, and upgrading your ship, like that being obviously your shields, your other hull and defensive capabilities, plus your weaponry, increasing its fire rate, or even just changing, say, the different weapons that you have on like equipped to it, is definitely beneficial, because there are a lot of contract missions, especially if you're doing a lot of those to increase your reputations, to get those reputation rewards. A really quick way to do that is via these contract missions, and a lot of them do actually occur in space, and you'll definitely need a ship that can handle, you know, fighting the pirates in space, or protecting a larger ship, or even taking down those larger ships that you can fight as well. It's something that you'll struggle with in the early game without those upgrades to your ship for sure. There is also this incredible belt that you can get relatively early on that increases your back to vial and grenade carry capacity, which we've already touched on why that is fantastic. Now, in order to get this, you will need to use the holo tracker, which is a particular device that I believe you get after you have reached hyperspace and like jumped to that first planet. I just like found it on my ship, and then like unlocked that first part of this quest. In your journal log, there is like a legacy section for Jet Cordo. Now, once you've unlocked this, you'll then need to return to Tashara and use the holo tracker. It'll show you a particular rock with like a location that you need to find. This is Typhoon's rock. Now you need to travel here, and there's like a location just sort of to the southwest-ish of that. There's like a little tower, and behind that tower you'll find like a rock that has like some markings on it, and by clicking on that you'll get like the next part of the quest, where you'll need to follow like the beeping sound of like the holo tracker to locate the actual vault. Now it's basically like in front of you there's like that other rock, that inside that rock face is like some tunnels, and inside there you'll actually find the location where you need to enter the disc, and then that'll unlock the first part of the vault. And inside that vault you'll find the belt, as well as a reference that there's going to be more of these on the other planets that you'll need to like sleuth out. But I thought I would cover this first one here, as it teaches you how to actually use the holo tracker as well. But when you're fighting on the ground, you will mostly be leaning on your blaster. Now your blaster has 3 modes, the first being plasma, which is just like your standard like damage mode. Ion you'll use to stun droids, as well as add electricity to like certain doors or something that are like relevant to puzzles. And power is like a charge shot that you'll use to destroy boulders, as well as deal significant damage, especially in the power line. My absolute favorite is the blast module, where the charge shot is actually like an AoE. I've used this a ton in a lot of encounters where there's a lot of AoE fights that are occurring, like enemies all sort of all come in together, and you can sort of explode them before they get too much pressure on you. But all the different mode variants that come from these, like the blast I just talked about, they come through like that story progression. You'll unlock these over time. So if you're wondering where they come from, because they are separate to the others, then they do come a little bit from that progression. But there is some other blaster upgrades as well. Like there's an NPC on Tatooine that will unlock for you that will upgrade your adrenaline mode, so you can actually hit more enemies, as well as allow you to one-shot elite enemies like Death Troopers. Nix not only has an appearance slot when you can dress him up, but there is a hidden food buff slot as well that you only get access to after you have found your first food item. Now in the main cities, there is like food stalls that you and Nix can eat at and go through this absolutely incredibly adorable eating scene. There are different eating scenes for these, so highly recommend doing them just for the fun of it. But at the end of it, you'll get a food item that can then be slotted to Nix that will actually give Nix a pretty substantial buff. My favorite is the one that you can get on Kijimi right near the spaceport that allows Nix to distract multiple enemies. This is like huge for stealth areas, right? Because you can pull a lot of those enemies, especially when there's enemies that are standing next to each other. You often have patrols or people, there's 2 of them standing there. You can have Nix go over there and distract both of them. Massive buff for like any stealth encounters that you have to do, as there are plenty of encounters where you can't actually get caught and you need to do them in stealth. Also, when you're on your ship, Nix actually collects materials and charms and other upgrades as well. So be sure to check at his bed and pick these up from time to time when you do return to the ship. I actually got a major charm for this. Charms being like those passive buffs that you can equip as well. You get additional charm slots throughout the story too, but definitely go back and check Nix's bed to get some materials as well. But that's everything I have for you today. If you want information about the reputation system and how it works and who you should side with, go and watch this video next. But thank you guys for watching this video till the end. Thank you to our members for supporting the channel. My name is NorZZa, and I hope you have a great day.